What's going on, Legionnaires, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, and make sure you're not missing any of the content that we have coming out. Now, for today's video, we're going to be diving into King in Black, The Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 1. Now, King in Black issue number 5 was delayed. It was pushed back to April 14th, I believe. But there are some tie-ins leading up to that, so we're going to get a little bit of the King in Black storyline as we progress along. Be sure to check out the other King in Black that came out today, which is the King in Black Sword. Now, this is written by Jed McKee. Penciler is Michelle Bandini, and colorist is Eric Arciniga. And with that being said, let's dive into this issue. So getting into this issue, we pick up with Peter Parker trying to take a breath, realizing that ever since he brought Venom back, ever since he first had the symbiote attached to him, every death since then he puts on his shoulders. Everyone Venom has hurt, everyone that Carnage has hurt, and then all the others. And now the freaking world is ending, and Peter Parker can't help but think that this is all his fault. Going back all those years ago, patient 0 of a global infection, and now Dylan Brock. And so Spider-Man is taking all of this in as his own responsibility, as all of his fault. And it's almost making him have like an anxiety attack in the middle of all of this battle. But a scream goes off in the distance and it breaks him out of this. And he sees a woman being carried off by what appears to be a symbiote dragon. Now his heart is still racing. He still has cold sweats, shallow breathing, and the shakes, but it doesn't matter because he's Spider-Man and he is on the clock. And so he has to do something. And so he goes swinging in and clocks this symbiote dragon right in the face, only to realize it's not actually a symbiote dragon. It's none other than Reptile. And this is when Reptile looks up and he's just confused. He's like, Spider-Man? Like, what is going on here? And Spider-Man catches him and lets him know, like, this is just a huge mistake. He literally thought this lady was being taken away, and so he ended up clocking Reptile in the face because of it. And this is when Reptile lets us know, like, he was a pterodactyl, and he was helping someone to safety. And this is when Spider-Man asks him, like, what are you doing here? I thought you had headed off to the Avengers Academy in California. And this is when he lets him know, like, that place literally closed years ago. And just how out of date and how much time has really passed since they really last saw each other. And then he lets him know, like, it's your fault I'm here anyway. And this only makes Peter Parker's heart beat faster. But then it's lightened up, because he lets him know, like, you're my inspiration. You know, you're the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, always there for the little guy. You know, and one thing they've learned is to know your capabilities. And this is when they look up and they see the two Celestials. And Reptile lets us know, like, I know I can't handle those guys. I wouldn't do any good against them. At the end of the day, I'm just a kid who can turn into dinosaurs. But he's learned from Peter Parker that saving people is more important than fighting people. So maybe he can't fight these monsters, but he can help this little old lady. Because right now, she needs to get home, and he is going to make sure that she does. Because that is what Spider-Man would do. And this is when Spider-Man realizes that this kid's got a point. There's nothing I can honestly do right now in this fight. But what I can do is offer my help in this situation. And that's exactly what we see happen. Spider-Man and Reptile making their way through the sky, trying to get this little old lady to safety. And Reptile asks him, like, don't you have something more important to do? Like, or even somewhere more important to be? And Spider-Man tells him, like you said, know your capabilities. This is something I can help with right now. And then he asks, like, where does this lady live? And she lets us know, Staten Island. And Spider-Man's like, whoa, hold on a second. Like, yeah, we're gonna still take you there, but you should have told me that that's where we were going. But Reptile, he doesn't know anything about New York in that regard. He's a kid from Arizona. And so they make their turn and they head off on their way to Staten Island, fighting their way through through symbiote dragons, doing their best to try to avoid them at all costs. And Spider-Man thinks to himself, maybe I'm not Doctor Strange. Maybe I'm not Thor or Captain Marvel or Iron Man or any of those individuals. And he thinks to himself, maybe this is all my fault. Maybe I am responsible for all this. Maybe I'm not Thor or Captain Marvel or any of the heavy hitters. But right now, today, in this moment, I can help this little old lady. I can help one person at a time, and that is exactly where you start. And as they're making their way over the water, they see a ferry and a lighthouse, shining as a beacon to everything around, realizing that there's going to be individuals that need some help because there is a symbiote dragon literally attacking this thing like Kraken to a pirate ship. And everything in Spider-Man is telling him that they can't do this. They shouldn't do this. They should turn away. They should go the other direction. But this is where courage comes into play. This is what makes Spider-Man so unique. And he tells Reptile that they have to fight. That there are people on that ship, on that ferry, that are gonna need their help. And this is when they put the little old lady down on the ship and they make their attack. And Reptile dives into the ocean, coming out emerging as what looks to be some kind of megalodon prehistoric water creature to take on the symbiote dragon, biting the symbiote dragon and dragging him underwater, giving Spider-Man and the individuals on board enough time to figure out some kind of plan. Now, Spider-Man knows these things hate electricity, and so he asks what they have on board that may be sufficient to be able to do this. And he lets them know that they have huge backup generators in case the engines fail. And so they decide to use this in a makeshift kind of harpoon. Now, as everybody is working to create this little harpoon that they want to make, we see the battle raging on underneath the water, and Reptile eventually succumbing to the symbiote dragon and being left floating in the water. But this is when Spider-Man and the crew have finished and completed the spear. And as the symbiote dragon rises its head over the ship, Spider-Man is reminded of Moby Dick, the man versus the whale, and Spider-Man leaps into action, taking the spear and thrusting it into the symbiote dragon's mouth. And with that, we see a giant explosion of symbiote goo go everywhere, and Reptile coming up, seeming to be okay. And this fight has been won. And these two kind of talk to each other, have a conversation about how, that felt good. Good doing that, but what do we do now? And Spider-Man says, we do it all over again. We go find somebody else to save, and we bring them back. And then this is when we see a great little adventure between Spider-Man and Reptile. These two teaming up to go take on all the symbiote dragons that they can, rescuing as many people as possible. Reptile turning into a Tyrannosaurus Rex, as well as a Velociraptor, them taking breaks kind of in a gas station convenience store, just eating some snacks and bananas, kind of refueling. And it's really phenomenal seeing these two team up to take these guys on. They may not be the heavy hitters at the end of the day, but that doesn't mean that they can't make a difference to the people that are on the ground. This isn't the boss fight. These tie-ins aren't necessarily pertaining 100% to Null all the time, but these stories are important to show the characters like Spider-Man and like Reptile on the ground doing the grunt work to try to protect as many people as possible and to prevent as many casualties as possible. And at the end of the day, Reptile, he just wants to be a hero. He wants to be an Avenger. And he wants to help people. And the best way he can do that is to learn from the people that he sees as heroes. Individuals like Spider-Man. Because he sees him as the real deal. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Personally, I really did enjoy this one. It was a lot of fun. Spider-Man has always been a lot of fun to me, and this one did not disappoint. It was, Peter Parker really truly struggling with the idea that he is the sole cause of all of this. If he hadn't brought Venom back here to begin with, none of this may have ever happened. that's all a hypothetical. Of course, you know, the god symbiote Noel had some kind of thirst for power. Eventually, he would have broke free and eventually would have came at them. So, in my opinion, Peter Parker actually helped him out because now they know how to face Venom, and you have individuals like Eddie and Dylan Brock to be able to help take on somebody like the god Noel symbiote. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you have not yet, please do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and until the next breakdown.